Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you've noticed that a woman's behavior changes when you start losing interest, you're not imagining things. Women expect men interested in them to chase, reassure, and consistently show affection. But what happens when that dynamic shifts? When a man who once seemed fully engaged suddenly stops prioritizing her? That's where reverse psychology in attraction comes into play. Many men believe that constantly showing love and attention will strengthen a relationship, but it often has the opposite effect. When something is always available, it's easy to take it for granted. However, when that same thing becomes scarce, its value suddenly increases. In today's video, we will explain how a woman reacts when she realizes you're no longer as interested as before. Some of her responses might surprise you, while others follow common psychological patterns in attraction. Whether she becomes more mysterious, feminine, or even starts chasing harder, it all reveals more profound insights into how attraction truly works. Watch until the end, because understanding these reactions can help you navigate relationships more confidently and clearly. Let's get started. 1. She becomes mysterious. A woman's shift into mystery isn't random, it's calculated. When she stops sharing personal details, like she once did when her conversations become vague, and responses turn into nonchalant phrases like, "just busy," or "life's been crazy," she's not merely distracted, she's creating a deliberate gap. An absence of information that forces a man to wonder, and in that wondering he begins to fill in the blanks, crafting narratives about what she's doing, who she's with, and why she's suddenly more elusive. Social media amplifies this game. She reduces her posting frequency, making it harder for him to track her life. When she does share, it's cryptic. Maybe a quote about moving forward, perhaps a photo from an upscale restaurant with no explanation. The message is clear, she's out there, living, but the details remain just out of reach. The more inaccessible she becomes, the more his curiosity grows, and with curiosity comes emotional re-engagement. The classic psychological principle of scarcity is that people assign more excellent value to what feels less available. Why does she do this? Because unpredictability is a powerful tool. The moment a man feels confident about a woman, his emotional intensity often wanes. She shifts the dynamic when she disrupts that certainty and introduces doubt into his mind. Suddenly, she isn't the predictable presence he took for granted. Instead, she's an enigma he now has to figure out. And that effort, that mental investment, pulls him deeper into the emotional web she's weaving. The mistake most men make is reacting emotionally. They chase, they probe, they question. Why are you being distant? Is something wrong? These responses only validate her strategy, confirming that her mystery has taken hold. The more he seeks answers, the more she knows she's succeeded in pulling him back in. But the man who remains unshaken, the one who doesn't react, holds the real power. If she realizes her distance isn't affecting him, she escalates, perhaps becoming even more mysterious or re-engaging on his terms, if she genuinely values the connection. The key is understanding that attraction isn't just about presence, it's about perception. When a woman introduces mystery, she's testing how much space she occupies in his mind. And the man who masters his response, who refuses to be thrown off balance, is the one who ultimately dictates the direction of the game. 2. She becomes more feminine. When a woman becomes more attracted to a man, or senses his attention slipping, a shift in her demeanor often follows. What was once resistance or casual indifference softens. Her tone grows warmer, her laughter becomes more frequent, and she finds small ways to compliment him. There is a newfound lightness in her presence, more playfulness, openness, a quiet invitation in how she engages. This transformation is not accidental. A woman instinctively knows that attraction is not only about words, but about energy. She leans in when he speaks, maintaining deep eye contact. Her posture relaxes and her body subtly angles toward him, even in the smallest gestures, the way she tucks her hair behind her ear, the gentle tilt of her head as she listens. There is an unspoken message. She wants to be seen by him. The physical effort often follows. More deliberate choices replace the casual approach she once had. She pays closer attention to her appearance, choosing outfits that highlight her femininity, styling her hair more carefully, and applying makeup with more intention. It is not about vanity but about signaling value. She wants to remind him of what initially drew him in, reawakening his emotions and deepening his attraction. This shift happens for two primary reasons. When a woman is genuinely drawn to a man, her femininity naturally flourishes in his presence. She does not force it. It emerges effortlessly because she feels safe, inspired, and engaged. However, this change can also appear when she senses distance, when she realizes he is no longer as present, as invested as before. In this case, the display of femininity serves a different purpose: to pull him back in, to reignite his focus, and to re-establish the dynamic that made him pursue her in the first place. A man who understands this dynamic observes without reacting emotionally. If her femininity only intensifies after he begins to pull away, he must question whether it is driven by true attraction or simply a response to perceived loss. A genuinely interested woman remains feminine not just in moments of uncertainty, but in moments of security. Her softness, warmth, and playfulness are not tactics, but natural extensions of how she feels when genuinely invested, and that distinction makes all the difference. 3. She starts chasing harder. A woman's behavior shifts noticeably when she senses a change in a man's availability. The dynamic that once felt predictable now carries an air of uncertainty, and suddenly she finds herself initiating more. She starts texting first. Her responses come quicker, and she engages more actively in conversations. The emotional openness she once hesitated to show now comes naturally. She expresses her appreciation for him, finds subtle ways to remind him of their connection, and makes an effort to ensure he feels valued. When interest intensifies, so does her presence. She starts liking more of his posts, reacting to his stories, and making small but intentional efforts to be a more visible part of his life. Invitations to spend time together become more frequent, and rather than leaving plans to chance, she actively finds reasons to be near him. This shift isn't random, it's deeply rooted in psychology. When a man has always been readily available, she never had to question his presence. But the moment that certainty wavers, she experiences something unfamiliar, the possibility of losing him. Scarcity creates value. The same man she once took for granted now appears in a different light, more intriguing, desirable, and worth the effort. This is why a woman, once passive in the relationship, suddenly becomes more engaged, playful, and invested. The dynamic has changed. Now she must secure what she assumed would always be there. For a man, the key is in how he responds. It's natural to feel validated when a woman starts chasing, but reacting too eagerly can undo the very shift that made him more desirable in the first place. Instead of immediately rewarding the renewed attention, he should remain composed, maintaining the same sense of independence that triggered her response. Not every pursuit reflects genuine, deep-rooted attraction. Sometimes it's just a reaction to the fear of loss. The man who understands this doesn't rush to reassure her. He lets the dynamic unfold naturally, continuing to focus on his own life, his goals, and his sense of purpose. Attraction isn't about forcing someone to chase. It's about embodying a presence that makes chasing feel natural. The moment a man becomes constantly seeking validation, the balance shifts again, and the dynamic loses its power. But when he remains grounded, self-assured, and unwavering in his sense of self, he creates a space where she chooses to pursue, not out of obligation, but out of a deep and undeniable desire to be part of his world. 4. She becomes overly curious. A subtle but revealing shift in behavior occurs when a woman starts feeling uncertain about where she stands with a man. What was once casual interest turns into heightened curiosity, a need to know more, to uncover details she previously overlooked. She begins to pay closer attention, not in an overtly suspicious way at first, but in ways suggesting she is no longer at ease. Her questions become more frequent, sometimes direct, sometimes veiled in casual conversation. Where he was, who he was with, what he was doing. Suddenly, these details seem to matter more to her than before. Social media becomes a silent battleground. She notices small things: who liked his post, who commented, who he followed. What once seemed irrelevant now carries weight. She wonders why he doesn't text back as quickly as before. If he mentions a night out with friends but offers no details, she fills in the blanks herself. And when curiosity turns into mild obsession, she might even turn to mutual friends, subtly probing for information without appearing too obvious. At the heart of this shift is emotional insecurity. She didn't need to analyze everything when she felt secure in the relationship. She trusted the connection, assumed the best, and let things flow naturally. But when something changes, perhaps his attention wavers or he becomes less predictable, her mind starts searching for answers. Uncertainty is discomforting, and for many women, the instinctive response is to seek control through knowledge. The more she knows, the less she has to wonder. The less she has to wonder, the safer she feels. A man's response to this curiosity determines the direction of the dynamic. If he rushes to reassure her and eagerly explains every little thing, he risks becoming too available, too easy to figure out. Paradoxically, this makes him less intriguing and less desirable. Instead, maintaining quiet confidence, responding without over-explaining, sharing without oversharing, keeps the balance in his favor. A bit of mystery compels interest. A man who is too eager to prove himself loses the very quality that made him attractive in the first place. The key is not to dismiss her curiosity, but to understand its roots. She isn't just asking questions, she's searching for reassurance, even if she doesn't say it outright. But reassurance given too freely loses its value. Instead, a man should let her work for it and let her invest in the dynamic. Interest should be met with engagement, but never desperation. When a woman's curiosity peaks, it means she cares, but how a man handles it determines whether that care turns into more profound attraction or quiet disillusionment. 5. She becomes overly critical. There comes a point in many relationships when a woman's attitude shifts. She begins to nitpick, making sharp remarks about his habits, choices, and appearance. What once might have been playful teasing now carries a sharper edge, her words laced with irritation or subtle disappointment. She might sigh when he forgets to do something, roll her eyes at his decisions, or accuse him of changing, of not caring the way he used to. These small criticisms, seemingly minor at first, begin accumulating, becoming a pattern that can leave a man feeling constantly judged and never quite good enough. At the core of this shift lies something more profound than mere dissatisfaction. A woman does not become overly critical without reason. Her frustration often reflects something else, an unspoken need, an internal conflict, a feeling of distance she does not know how to close. When she feels that she is losing emotional influence over a man, she may not express this directly when she senses that his attention is slipping away. Instead, her words become sharp, her patience wears thin, and she finds faults in places she once overlooked. It is her way of testing him, of seeing whether he still values the connection enough to fight for it. Many men, upon facing this kind of criticism, react emotionally. They argue, defend themselves, and try to prove they are still the same man she once admired. But in doing so, they fall into a trap, engaging in unnecessary conflicts that only reinforce the emotional tension. A wiser approach is to recognize her behavior for what it is, not an attack, but a signal. She is not pushing him away because she no longer cares. On the contrary, her irritation is often a sign that she still feels something deeply, but she does not know how to express it in a way that feels safe and understood. The best response is a calm presence, a man who does not let her words shake him, who does not react with defensiveness or frustration, subtly shifts the dynamic. Instead of fueling the emotional storm, he allows it to pass. He listens without taking every word personally, responds without escalating the tension, and remains grounded in his sense of self. By doing so, he communicates something far more powerful than words, that he is not easily swayed, that he is steady even in the face of emotional waves, and that he understands her frustration without letting it define their connection. With time, if he holds this frame, she will soften. She will realize that she does not need to provoke a reaction to feel his presence. And in that realization, the energy between them will shift, away from criticism and towards something deeper, something that can only be built when a man stands firm, not as an opponent in an argument, but as a steady presence in her life. 6. She tries to make him jealous. It is rarely a coincidence when a woman starts acting differently, becoming more social, drawing attention to herself around other men, or casually mentioning new male friends. These shifts in behavior often have an underlying psychological motive, one rooted in validation and control. She is not necessarily seeking to replace the man in her life, but to gauge his reaction. She wants to know, does he still care? Does he still feel possessive? Is she still able to stir his emotions the way she once did? This subtle game of jealousy is not always conscious, but deeply embedded in human nature. She may start posting pictures that hint at excitement and adventure, making sure he sees that she is living a fulfilling life without him at the center. She might drop the name of a male co-worker, a new friend, or even an old acquaintance, just enough times to make him wonder. And if he takes the bait, if he reacts with jealousy, frustration, or a sudden surge of attention, she regains control. His emotional reaction proves that he still values her, and that she can still affect him. She may escalate her efforts if he remains unshaken, pushing further to get her desired response. For many men, the instinctive reaction is to compete for her attention or pull away completely. Neither is ideal. Competing plays into her hands, reinforcing that she can manipulate his emotions. Pulling away in resentment, on the other hand, gives her confirmation that she has disrupted his emotional state. The most effective response is neither extreme. A man who understands this dynamic does not let himself be drawn into the game. He recognizes the behavior for what it is, a validation-seeking tactic, a test of his emotional stability, and remains composed. Instead of reacting, he stays grounded in his purpose and priorities. This does not mean ignoring her entirely. It means showing that he is unfazed and that his sense of self-worth is not tied to external validation. A confident man who remains centered and focused on his life exudes a quiet strength far more attractive than any reactive display of jealousy. When he refuses to be controlled by emotional games, the balance shifts. Instead of chasing her, he lets her return on her terms, and in doing so he reinforces a dynamic of respect and mutual value, rather than one dictated by insecurity and emotional manipulation. 7. She starts doubting herself. When a woman starts doubting herself in a romantic dynamic, the shift is often subtle yet deeply unsettling. She may begin questioning her attractiveness, replaying past interactions in her mind, searching for clues she might have missed. The effortless confidence she once felt starts to waver, replaced by an internal uncertainty dialogue. She wonders if she miscalculated his interest, overestimated the connection, or misunderstood the silent cues that once seemed so clear. This creeping doubt doesn't just affect how she sees him, it alters how she sees herself. A woman thrives on feeling desired, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional validation that comes with knowing she is seen, wanted, and appreciated. When that certainty is shaken, when a man's attention wavers, his responses become less enthusiastic, or his presence feels less engaged, she begins to question his intentions and her worth in his eyes. Was she not as captivating as she believed? Had she lost some intangible quality that once drew him in? These thoughts don't always surface immediately, but they take root, subtly influencing her behavior and emotions. This shift creates a sense of loss, not necessarily of the man himself, but of the validation he unknowingly provided. Women are often acutely aware of how they are perceived in relationships, and when a man pulls back, intentionally or unconsciously, it disrupts the balance she once felt. The sense of control she believed she had, the ability to elicit interest, admiration, and affection, now feels uncertain, and for many women, that uncertainty is far more unsettling than rejection. Ironically, this doubt can sometimes deepen her attraction. The absence of validation creates a void, and in attempting to fill it, she may find herself investing more emotionally, analyzing his actions more intently, and seeking reassurance in ways she never did before. If a man understands this dynamic, he holds a unique position of influence, not by playing mind games, but by recognizing the power of presence, consistency, and clarity in his interaction. The difference between drawing her closer and pushing her away lies in how he navigates this delicate shift. 8. She comes back stronger or disappears completely. When a woman is genuinely interested in a man, she either steps forward with greater intensity or quietly steps away. This is not a game, but a natural test of his value. If he presents himself as a man who is grounded, confident, and in control of his emotions, she will sense it immediately. She will either feel the pull to stay, investing more effort to keep his attention, or she will retreat, realizing she is unwilling to compete for the space in his life. In either case, a man of true self-worth remains unaffected, knowing that attraction is not something to be chased, but to be cultivated. A woman's response to a man's level of attention is often an unspoken reflection of her interest. She won't fade away if she sees him as valuable, someone worth being around. She will find ways to reinsert herself into his world, engage with him again, and ensure he sees her in a compelling light. She may reach out, suggest plans, or be more present in his space, waiting to connect. This isn't desperation, it's a sign of respect. A woman who values a man understands that effort must go both ways. Conversely, if she disappears without a second thought, she is never profoundly invested. This is not a loss, it is a revelation. A high-value man does not chase after someone who has removed herself from his life. He does not question his worth based on her absence. nor does he feel the need to prove himself to a woman who has already decided to step away. He understands that a woman who truly wants to be in his life will make her presence known. The strongest men do not react emotionally to these shifts. They do not plead for attention or attempt to change a woman's mind. They operate from a place of abundance, knowing that the right connections will naturally strengthen while those not meant to last will fade. And in that quiet self-assurance, they become even more attractive, because nothing is more compelling to a woman than a man who knows his value and refuses to compromise it for fleeting validation. Attraction is not about chasing, it's about maintaining your value. When a woman only starts to appreciate you after sensing your distance, it's a sign that she was never truly invested in you, only in the attention and validation you provided. A high-value man doesn't let a woman's reactions dictate his worth. He remains confident, self-assured, and in control of his path. The key takeaway? Your energy is best spent on building yourself, not proving yourself. If she genuinely values you, she won't lose you to realize it. And if she only wants you when you're slipping away, she was never the right one. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced a woman reacting this way when you pulled back? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content on attraction, self-improvement, and personal growth. Stay strong, stay focused, and always protect your values. See you in the next one.